Hello, thank you for checking out this video about our new book, Centering Multilingual Learners and Challenging Raciolinguistic Ideologies in Teacher Education, published by Multilingual Matters. My name is Jeff Bale. I'm an associate professor at the Ontario Institute for Studies in Education at the University of Toronto. I had the great pleasure to be the lead author of this book, working with an amazing research team and an amazing author team. There were 10 of us in total. In this video today, we're going to do something a bit different from other videos in this series from the publisher. We have given a couple of book launches already, the most recent of which was at the University of Alberta, where one of the book's authors, Dr. Katie Brubaker, now works as an assistant professor. We were able to record that book launch as it was given in a hybrid format. So this video today takes excerpts from that recording to give you an overview of the book. I begin by sharing some background to the study and the research design behind it. And then three of us will read directly from different chapters in the book. I begin with chapter 1, sharing a vignette from the very first day of class in one of the key seminars behind our study. Then Mama Adobea and Owoo will read from chapter 5. Mama is a graduate student in our department at Owoo, about to finish and defend her dissertation. It's very exciting. And she was one of the key authors behind chapter 5. And then Dr. Shakina Rajendram will read from the final chapter, chapter 8, in which she shares some of her experience working with teacher candidates and what they've learned about multilingualism and challenging racio-linguistic ideologies. Dr. Rajendram is also an alumna of our program and works as an assistant professor teaching stream in our program as well. So from there, I'll turn it over to the recording. Thanks for viewing. If you have any questions or ideas or feedback, we welcome your comments below, or you can contact us as well at Owoo. Thanks. As context for this study, in 2015, the province of Ontario implemented a new policy to govern teacher education. This policy included several important changes. The most relevant to us, and the change that really inspired this study, was a new mandate that teacher education providers must address the topic of what the policy calls supporting English language learners in their pre-service curriculum. This makes Ontario the only Canadian jurisdiction to require all teacher candidates to learn about linguistic diversity and supporting multilingual learners during their initial teacher education program. To address the first objective, one team of us worked with multilingual learners to create what the team called ME-MAPs. At the heart of this project was an ethnographic case study of the MT program. We focused on the Supporting English Language Learners course, working in 9 sections of the course over 3 academic years. We collected core assignments from candidates. We conducted observations of their learning during class time and interviewed just over 50 candidates. We also interviewed 10 members of the instructional team for the course, and 3 of us on the research team. We also taught the course, so we kept our own researcher notes. The case study allowed rich, up-close perspectives on what and how teacher candidates learned about multilingualism and learned to work with multilingual learners. So to complement these data, we designed a pedagogical content knowledge test to understand better at the program level what and how candidates learned about these same issues. Finally, another team interviewed ESL teachers and teacher leaders in the province, as well as teacher educators from the other 15 programs in Ontario. There are 16 teacher education programs in Ontario. The goal was to understand from their perspectives what it means to prepare teacher candidates to work with multilingual learners. In addition, this team analyzed publicly available documents and websites about from the other teacher education programs to understand how they responded to the policy shift in 2015. It was 9 a.m. in early January 2018, and another term was about to begin. This was my second time teaching the Supporting English Language Learners course that we described earlier. I would welcome 29 teacher candidates that year, all at the secondary level. I had asked candidates to read several texts in advance of our first meeting. These included recent reports on the educational experiences of racialized and Indigenous students in Toronto schools, and a research article about the contradictions of multilingual schools in officially bilingual Canada. In our discussions of these readings that day, I specifically asked candidates to connect what they had read to their own experiences as students when they were younger. What they told me that day about themselves, about their upbringing and experiences at school, had a profound impact on how I would think about supporting English language learners, how I would change my teaching on this topic, and how I would understand the research that we share in this book. This class session foreshadowed the doubts and debates we would revisit over the next 12 weeks. As I reflected on our conversation that first day, I was struck by the contradictions it revealed. On the one hand, there was the normalcy of the linguistic and racial diversity present in this cohort. This is, after all, Toronto. On the other hand, this linguistic diversity in the cohort was rarely ever talked about. I met this group in the last of 5 semesters that make up our teacher education program. And for most of the program, candidates are cohorted with the same 30 people or so. Yet these candidates told me this was the first time they'd been asked to reflect on their lived experiences with language. More revealing still, no one had extended the conversation that day to the connection between language and racial identity, let alone racism. Perhaps we didn't see it. Its normalcy rendered this connection invisible. Maybe it was too uncomfortable a topic to discuss, or maybe candidates were not yet sure where to begin, even with peers they had spent the last year and a half with in this cohort. Yet it's precisely these connections between language, racism, and learning how to teach that this book explores.
In this chapter, we discuss the racio-linguistic ideologies implied in some of these insights and how these ideologies can work to obscure the barriers to supporting multilingual learners that exist in schools and in teacher education programs. Racial-linguistic ideologies are personal and socially held beliefs and perceptions that typecast the language practices of racialized individuals and groups, thereby underestimating and/or overdetermining these subjects' academic and/or linguistic abilities. Racial linguistics provides a useful heuristic for appreciating the overt and covert distinctions imposed on categories of speakers within dominant language structures, because it draws attention to the unspoken racial biases that shape the evaluation and legitimization of linguistic competence and language standards. And we draw this from ROSA 2016.
In chapter 8, which is our final chapter, we respond to the major themes and findings presented throughout the book with a discussion of several guiding principles and practices for teacher education. We acknowledge, however, that these principles and practices are not the only ones that matter or are possible, and that they will continue to change, but we treat these principles and practices as opportunities for us to gain awareness of and to begin to challenge the co-naturalization of language and race that so deeply shapes teacher candidate learning about multilingual learners. So in closing, our book offers several principles and practices of change with the potential to move teacher candidate learning beyond reflection and towards concrete actions that challenge the collaboration of race, racism, and language in shaping support for multilingual learners. But there are many other possibilities for how teacher educators can prepare future teachers in their respective context. Our hope is that at their core, all of those principles, policies, and practices across contexts will share a commitment to centering multilingual learners in their experiences, learning from multilingual learners as opposed to only learning about them, and challenging racial linguistic ideologies, which are the central themes and takeaways of our book.